Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Lena and welcome back to another video. So, because we're getting to the end of the year, I'm going to start with all of my kind of favorite series. So, I'm going to show you 3 videos basically. This is going to be the first one, which is favorite fantasies of all time. Then we will have favorite science fiction of all time, and then favorite non-sci-fi nor fantasy. I have a few of those. Not that many of them, to just separate them into different categories, so we're going to do this. And before we get started, you might hear some noise in the background. I will do my best to remove it, but they are fixing something just right behind this wall. So maybe you will hear something. So these are not in any particular order except for the top 3. I will warn you when we get there. We are also going to have some honorable mentions, and in total I think I have 2 YA series, 1 middle grade, and the rest is all adult fantasy. So let's just get started. We're going to start with one of my kind of oldest favorites. This is The Painted Man by Peter B. Brett. This is book 1 in the Demon Cycle. I love the Demon Cycle. I love it. I've said this multiple times because I have mentioned the series in other videos of mine, especially lately, but I just love it. I haven't even read the short stories, which is not something that I would usually do, so that tells you something. So it's kind of a more dark fantasy than a regular fantasy, but it doesn't have that many dark topics on it. Still, I freaking love this. I love Arlen as a character. I love almost every single character that we met here. So I just really like this one, okay? I know that so many people have problems with how the series ended and how it turned after the 3rd book, but basically in The Painted Man, or also The Warded Man, it has different names for some reason that I don't understand. I have never actually looked it up, but I should. In this one, we're set in a world where demons are real and they come out at night every single day. Basically, when the sun starts to go down, they will just appear kind of out of nowhere, and basically they kill people, they attack houses. The only way to defend yourself right now is just to use some wardens that you can put like in almost any material. And that's how you prevent them to get in. There used to be a time where humanity was actually able to fight demons, but that knowledge is all lost. So we're going to follow Arlen. We're then going to follow a shit ton of characters, but we're going to start with Arlen. One a day, he's just having like normal, usual day of his life. And then by accident, his mother gets killed by one of these demons. He basically kind of goes a little bit cuckoo and decides to actually try to find this knowledge and fight back the demons. I'm just going to leave it at that. So many things happen in the 1st book. I think that probably the first 3 are my favorites. I do understand the problems that it has by the end, but I still really like them. There's a giant cliffhanger at the end of book 4 or 3? I don't remember right now, but it's just like a gigantic cliffhanger. So yeah, I love this series. I gave, I think all the books 5 stars, or maybe one I gave 4 stars. I don't remember, but I love them all. So let's just talk a bit about my favorite YA fantasy. This is The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. I love this series. I know. Also, the 3rd book has an ending that not everyone likes. I don't like it either. I thought that it could have been so much better. It's not like the actual ending, but the epilogue that makes me mad all the time. But still, book 1 and 2 are so fantastic. I love Kelsey, our main character. She's incredible. I love this series. I really want to read it. This is his Spanish edition, by the way. That's why it might look really like a bit weird. But I'm so excited to reread this series. My friend Kayla is currently reading them for the first time, and it's just like, I want to read it. The villain here, the Red Queen, is also such a great part of the story. We have kind of demons. We have so many twists here. I freaking loved it. In this one, we basically follow Kelsey. She is actually supposed to be the queen of this realm, but she has been kind of keep up hard just to grow up really far from the castle and all the royal life, basically. So she just turned 18. The guard is sent to get her back, and when she manages to get back to her throne, she discovers that her uncle is actually been ruling like shit, basically. Everything is upside down. There's slavery. They are sending people to the Red Queen to be slaves. Everything is a mess. and Kelsey's here to fix it. She's one of the most believable characters that I have ever read. I love her so much. I don't really even know if this is considered young adult or adult, because technically she's older. That's a mystery for another day. But you know, I just really like this one. Then, just to get the other way out of the way, Crown of Feathers by Nikki Paul-Preto. Technically this is cheating because this series is not finished, but I doubt that the third book is going to be a mess and make me hate the series. I don't really think that. If it does, well then I will have to change this, but currently this is one of my favorite series of all time. I love this, even though I low-key hate when there's animal companions. Always hurt and I cannot deal with that. In this one we have phoenixes. Is that a word? I don't think so. All the characters, even the animals themselves, are so amazing, so incredibly great that I can't help it. I read book 1, loved it completely. The reveal at the end got me like gasping for a good chunk of time. Then I immediately grabbed book 2, which is really weird. I usually like to have a break between books on the same series. I couldn't help it. I loved it. I cannot wait for the release of the third book this year, well, this next year. So in this series we follow Veronica and Val. They are two sisters, and in this world, basically mages, that are people with magic that can communicate with animals, are hunted down. Their dream is actually to become Phoenix Riders. I cannot say that word. They really want to become Phoenix Riders, and one day they find two eggs, two phoenixes. I cannot say it. At the same time, we're also going to follow Seb. He's another animate that has been taken by the Empire. He's basically been taken as a prisoner, and he's trying to hide his true identity because if they find out, they basically might kill him. It's just such a cool story. There are so many things, you know, phoenixes, and then also there's kind of spinach sometimes. I really like this series. It's a highly underrated YA series. I would highly recommend that you try it because it's fucking great. And also there's a romance that I really like, which, what the hell, is not in this book, it's in the second one, but it's just so good. I was kind of hesitant to include this here, but I will include it anyway. This is the Lights of Lok Lamora by Scott Lynch. I love the Gentleman Bastard sequence. I cannot help it. I freaking adore this series. I cannot wait for book 4. I read the 3 of them in less than a month or 2 months, I think. My favorite one is still The Republic of Thieves, the 3rd one, which is kind of an unpopular opinion, but I just love that one so much. Oh, the relationship between Locke and John, that friendship, it's so cool, man. It's just like, I love it. And I also really like how these stories are told. We have like the actual story, where something is going wrong, basically, always something's wrong. And then we have the flashbacks that basically lead to that moment, and everything is always connected, of course. So I really like that thing. In this one, we basically follow the Gentleman Bastards, which are basically a group of thieves that worship this god called the 13th Goth. But yeah, they basically pull out this always kind of super convoluted and amazing heist. It's just so cool. The main protagonists are Locke and John, but Locke is like the smart little one and John is like the brute. He'll basically just punch you in the face if you do something wrong. So yeah, it's just so cool. It's just so cool. I freaking love this. I cannot help it. Then let's talk about the middle grade one. I mean, of course it was going to happen. Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. I read this as a teenager. It has been in my heart since that. I cannot help it. I reread all the books this year. I love it. I even have the illustrated edition, which is up here, and I freaking love it. I will never be tired of this series. I cannot wait for the Disney adaptation. I'm a little bit scared, maybe, but I cannot wait. I'm just super excited. I need more Percy Jackson. I also really like Heroes of Olympus, but this one is my jam. I know that so many of you have heard of this, but in this one, we basically follow Percy Jackson, and he basically discovers that he is a demigod. More precisely, the son of Poseidon, and he's sent into this camp called the Half-Blood Camp, where all the kind of demigods are training to fight evil. This book is a dream, man. I love it so much. I will never outgrow this series. It's just so good. The nostalgia gets me every time. I cannot help it. It's fucking amazing. Two more before we get to the honorable mentions. I mean, this series has taken a hold on my heart and it's going to stay there probably forever because it's just so well done. This is the Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and this is book 1 in the Poppy War series. And holy shit, this series is amazing. This series is dark, so be aware of that. There are tons of trigger warnings. If you are sensitive to anything, please check that out before reading this book, just in case. If you haven't here a while, you know that I love this series. I have actually been participating on a read-along, basically rereading this series for the release of the Burning Gods, which I still don't have. They really don't want to give me my copy. It's supposedly getting here on the 28th of December. Who knows? Maybe it will never get here. It's driving me insane. We have one of the most probably unlikable characters here. Rin is not like a great likable protagonist, if I'm being honest, but you really root for her. She has like a incredible hard past, a hard life, and it's just awful. So many awful things happen to her. But this series is fantastic. We basically follow Rin. She is a war orphan and she lives in the south, which is like the poorest part of this empire, and she basically really wants to get out of there because her life is miserable. So for that, she needs to take this test so she can basically enter one of these prestigious military academies. And she actually needs to score the highest so she can go to Synagard, which is free. So if you are that good, you get free school. So that's what she really needs. And what can I tell you? You can imagine what happened, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Basically, it's kind of a mysterious thing, but of course we have a kind of magical school setting. Not revealing anything, huh? And there's also a big change on the middle of this book. We go from a magical school to a full-on war. So be aware of that. That might be also considered a spoiler. I'm sorry, but I just really want to warn everyone because so many people have been surprised by the change of pace in the middle. I was really okay with that. I actually really liked it. It felt really realistic. So, okay with that. Why am I justifying how much I love this book? I just freaking love this book, okay? In this series, my favorite book is still the second one, The Dragon Republic, which is right here because it has a lot of military strategy, which is something that, you know, I freaking love. So it's still my favorite, but the Poppy War is great. The Burning God is great. Read this series, please. So the last one before we get into the honorable mentions is going to be Jade City by Fonda. Again, am I kind of cheating because this series is not completed? Yeah. But it's going to be completed next year. I loved both Jade City and Jade War. Gave both of these 5 stars. I doubt that I'm going to give Jade Legacy less than a 5-star rating because I know it's going to be amazing. Book 2 is even better than book 1. I wasn't expecting that because I loved this book so much. This is a Asian-inspired urban fantasy, and it's just so fucking original, okay? So we are set on the island of Kaigen, and here we have this kind of magical element called a jade. If you wear it, you are given some kind of powers, but it's not like, oh, you're going to have like magic and such. No, it will enhance your kind of more natural abilities, so you will be faster, you will be stronger, things like that. It's not like full-on magical system or any of that. So we are going to actually follow a family. I almost said Matsuda, like in the Sword of Kaigen. We're going to follow the Cole family. We have 3 brothers and one kind of a adoptive brother, for calling something. They are part of the Nopi clan, which is at war with the Mountain clan. These both clans are basically trying to fight over another all the time over territory and such. So yeah, it's kind of a gangster type of a book, 100% kind of mafia. Yeah, but with magic. You know, you have the Godfather, magic, then you have Jade City. But the characters are fucking great. The pacing of this book is amazing in my opinion. It's full on action packed, so you won't be bored a bit. It does take a little bit of time to get into it because the beginning is, I wouldn't say confusing, but it's more kind of info dumpy, but really light, you know, not like full on info dumping you. I freaking love this series. I cannot wait for it. Like, see, I mean, I really cannot wait. It's impossible that this series gets out of my favorite list. Impossible. I freaking love this. I will highly recommend this book to almost everyone because it's really hard for you to not like this book if you like fantasy. So I will definitely try it. So let's talk about some of my honorable mentions here. I'm going to talk about some books that I really love, but I'm just like, I'm not sure if they will be my favorites forever, and some series that have the potential to get into this list. So we're going to start with the Moontide Quartet by David Hare. I have only read 2 books and I love them both. I thought that the first one was great. It's kind of heavy on the political intrigue part of things, and it doesn't have that much magic into your kind of at the end. So that's what has me like hesitating a little bit. But you know what? I actually think that I'm going to love this series because book 2 was incredible. Incredible. I freaking loved it. It's actually right there. It's just amazing. I freaking adore this series. We basically follow this war where we have 2 continents and they are really different from one another. They are kind of almost basically at war, and this gets kind of aggravated every 12 years when the moontide happens. This means that the bridge that is currently under the sea gets elevated basically and connects both continents. So we are basically trying to see if we are going to go to war or not. So many things are at play. It's high stakes all the time. This series is just like incredible. So I think that this might make my list once I finish the first quartet. The second one is a trilogy, so I really think this could make it. Then I'm pretty sure this one is going to make like my favorite list probably when it's completed. This is A Curse of Dragons by Jen Lyons, and I freaking adore the first book. The thing is, the first book is still my favorite, so that's what's kind of making me hesitate a bit about including it here or not, because I don't think that the books are getting worse, don't get me wrong, but the confusion of the first book got to me in the greatest of ways. So I'm just like, give me more of that. Give me more confusion. I want that. So the third one is not as hard and the second one is much lighter than the first one. I'm just like, give me more. But I'm also so attached to these characters, even though I'm a more kind of plot-driven reader than character-driven. The characters in here are fucking amazing and fucking great. So I really cannot wait to continue this series. I freaking love Thurvachard. He's just so cool. I love it. And book 4 is coming out really early next year on May, and I'm pretty sure that we will get book 5 and the final one probably the same year. So I'm excited. In this one we basically follow Kieran. You have heard me say this synopsis so many times already, but he's kind of the lost heir son to this super powerful lord. He's kind of a lost prince, okay? When we start the story, he's in prison basically, and he's telling how he got there to his jailer, who is a mimic monster that can basically take everyone's appearance and also memories with them. And they are also telling the same story, but from many different points of view, and it's confusing as heck. but it's amazing. This book is amazing. It's highly underrated also, so I would highly recommend that you check this one out. So yeah, Elantris. I love Elantris. You already know that if you have been here a while. It's my favorite book by Brandon Sanderson. I don't really think this book needs an introduction because it's really, really well known. I just love it, and I needed to mention it because my love for this book is so big. I'm not even that huge of a Sanderson fan, but Elantris, man, oh, I love this book. I love this book. I just wanted to say that, okay? And then the last honorable mention, I was going to include The Shadow of What Was Lost, but I'm about to read the third book, so I'll talk about that one when I finish that. But this is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. I couldn't put this on my favorites list because I still haven't read the sequel, but I'm sure I'm going to put this series in my favorites list once I finish it, because this series is incredible. This first book was amazing, and I've only heard amazing things about the sequel being even better than this one. So I'm so excited. In this one, we basically start following Emperor Mapidere, and his dream was to conquer off this entire island, the 7 realms, and unify everything. He does, and some years pass. He is about to die, basically, and his dream is about to shatter into pieces. So when he dies, some parts of the country start to rebel, some others are still loyal to the empire. So we're going to follow 2 different characters. The first one is Kuni, who is a gangster, thief, con artist, whatever you want to call him, and he's always been ambitious, and he meets Gia, which is an amazing woman, and I'm just going to leave it at that because holy shit, this book. And then we're going to follow Mata. He was basically the son of one of the lords before Mapidere unified everything, and he has been raised his whole life to basically take down the empire and everyone else with it. So yeah, it's an intense read, okay? It's quite dense also. Aware of that. If you want to know more, you can check out my full review, but I loved it. So my third favorite fantasy series, book, whatever, of all time, the Apollo Trilogy by Brian McClellan. I tried to move past this series because I know that the first book is it's not perfect. It was kind of perfect for me, almost, but it has issues. But man, I love book 2. I loved book 3. And I know the series is not for everyone, but I just love it. I cannot help it. Every time that I think about it as loving it. Like, I cannot think about the issues, I cannot think about the problems. I just freaking adore this series. I can't help it. It's really, really focused on warfare and political intrigue. So it's just like my thing. It's perfect. I love it. Don't take this to like 100% seriously. You might try this and not love it as much because it's gunpowder fantasy, meaning we have guns like you can see here. So not everyone is really into that, but I love that we have 3 different magic systems. We have like the powder mages who can basically snort powder and have different abilities. Then we have the kind of mages that can wield different elements. It's super cool. It's super cool. Then we also have blood magic, which sounds incredible, I know. Then we also have like special knacks. One of our characters doesn't sleep ever, and that's his special knack. It's weird. There are so many different elements at play in here. We're basically set in this country called Atro, and the interesting thing about it is that we're going to follow General Tamas, and he basically just killed the whole monarchy. He's taking control. He wants to start a republic, and for that he's going to need help. In one hand, he's going to use the help of his son Taniel, who has the ability to basically manipulate 2 bullets at the same time and control them. At the same time, we also have like a detective trying to figure out all the behind the scenes of the construction of the republic. It's just, the series is so cool. It has a little bit of everything. I love it. I love the magic system in here. I just can't. I'm 100% biased with this series. Hell yeah. But I cannot help it. I just love it. Number 2. This took me a while, but you know, this is number 2. Nothing is ever going to change number 1, probably. So, number 2, The Sword of Kaigen by MO1. This is also going to make my best of the year list. Like, is anyone surprised? This book has been present on my channel since, I don't know, February, probably. February or March, I'm not exactly 100% sure, but you know, I loved it. This is one of the books that deserves 5 stars the most, probably, out of this list. It's a standalone novel, even though it's kind of a prequel to this author's other urban fantasy series. This is not an urban fantasy, this is a full-on fantasy series. And this book made me cry so much. I know I always say the same thing, but it made me cry so much. It's really weird for me to have kind of strong emotions while reading a book. I might be just like really happy and such, but it's really weird for me to just be really invested in the characters. And holy shit, I cried so much with a thing here. There's a sentence here that says, it's not, no spoilers, you won't understand anything. The world will never know that he wasn't the youngest. And that sentence makes me want to cry every single time I read it, like out of context. It's just, you can see me tear up a bit. Holy shit, I spent like 2 hours crying over this book. I couldn't stop. There are so many emotions just condensed in one standalone novel, which doesn't make any sense to my brain. Just like, ML1 is amazing. I cannot wait to read everything that she comes out with. It's just out of this world. It's just out of this world. Again, 100% bias here, yeah, but this is my favorite list, so fuck it. I just love this standalone book so much. I really want to read it again just to see what happens with my emotions, with my feelings again, but I freaking love this, okay? I freaking love this. So if you see something weird, it's probably because my battery died and I had to change it, so sorry for these slight changes. But basically, I was saying that this book is fantastic and that we are set on the Kaigenese Empire. More precisely on the Sword of Kaigen, which is this little peninsula where all the mightiest and powerful warriors are. So we follow the Matsuda family. We first follow Misaki, who is the mother of this family basically, and she used to be like kind of a crime fighter. She was amazing, okay, but now she had to settle down. She is again a mother of, I don't remember if there was 4 children or 3, and she's not taking it very well. She's kind of also very depressed, but she has her friends that are fucking amazing, by the way. The friendship in here is incredible. At the same time, we're also following Mamoru, who is Misaki's son, basically. He's always been a loyal servant to the Empire, basically, until he starts discovering some really weird things that don't add up, and he starts asking himself some questions. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because holy shit, this book is incredible. But I will warn you, the climax of the book, for saying something, happens right upon the middle, so the last 200 pages are just kind of the aftermath of the battle, so careful with that if you don't like that. But I cannot say anything else because this book is incredible, just incredible. So the last book that I'm going to talk about, I mean, it's quite obvious now that you know the second one, is going to be Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew. The series is called the Arcane Ascension, and I freaking love this precisely because the opposite reasons of this never makes me feel sad. It makes me feel pure joy every time I read this. I'm currently reading the 3rd book and I'm loving it. Just like my nerdiest part loves it because it takes a lot of time and effort to get deep into the magic system and how it works and how Corin can create more magical items, and I just freaking love that, okay? Holy shit, this is this is kind of nerdy, I know, but I love it. It spends so much time just like, you know, exploring the world. I love it, and I just love being in Corin's mind. It's a kind of a busy place, but I just really like him. He's so damn likable. All of these secondary characters are amazing. Also, there's tons of mysteries, there's a ton of magic, so it's just fantastic. Okay, it might not be everyone's cup of tea because it's quite close to a literary RPG, meaning that it takes elements from video games and puts them on a book format. For example, the magic here works by using mana, and you will get like the exact number of mana all the time. For example, I will use one spell and then I have 48 points of mana. That spell I used, I don't know, 20 or something. And you will get like Corin trying to surpass his basic mana levels all the time. So it takes its time talking about that, so you might not like that. But for me, it works incredible. I love spending time learning that. So that's why this is my favorite series. I love it. It's going to be a 7-book series. For what I know, only the first 3 books are out, but we have the prequel series, the spin-off series. It's amazing. I love them all, but this is special. So basically, in sufficiently advanced magic, we're set in this world where we have these spires. If you manage to get through all the floors, you will get to know the goddess and she will grant you a wish. Basically, these towers are full with traps, riddles, monsters, everything. Everything. In order to get magic, you need to get into the tower and pass this test called a judgment. You will then exit the tower with basically no memories, and you will get an atonement, which will be in any part of your body and will allow you to channel mana and basically use magic. So depending on the type of atonement you get, you will be a different type of magician. For example, we have summoners that can basically make a contract with the monster and then summon them, like a copy of them. It's just super cool, okay? So we're going to follow Corin, and his brother disappeared the day of his judgment. He is obsessed with finding him, basically, and his plan is get an atonement, then get to the magical school, pass the military service, and then get into the tower and basically find his brother. It's just so cool, okay? The magical school here is amazing. There's tons of also military things because it's a pretty kind of heavy country on the military stuff, so it's super cool. I loved it. The world is greatly explored on the 3rd book especially. Derek is my favorite character. He's just I love him so much. But yeah, this series is amazing. I cannot recommend it enough. You might not love it as much as I do. I mean, I get it, I accept that, but it doesn't matter because I loved it. This is literally my favorite fantasy series of all time. I love it. I've been loving it for 3 years now, and I cannot help it. This is my #1. It's going to be for a long time probably. There's going to be hard for a book to top this one. Not even the Sword of Kaigen did. So that's interesting. Yeah, that's basically my list. I will update this list from year to year. Basically, I read a shit ton of books, okay? So I sometimes find new favorites, or more than one new favorite in a year, like this year. So I will keep updating this list every December probably, or January, depending on how the year is going. But yeah, have you read any of these? I know that so many people have liked the Sword of Kaigen, which makes me so happy. Every time that I see someone suffering reading the book, I'm like, yeah, I get you. But yeah, that's going to be all for today. So basically, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.